go.
Hello everyone, I am Michael Brian Lumaban, the IT student at St. Paul University, Philippines. Today, we are going to discuss risk management. Let's get it started. What is risk and risk management? First, let us discuss what is risk. In most basic sense, risk is simply likelihood that some specific threats will occur. In order to manage risk, we need to understand what is involved, and in the high-level risk management involve the following. We need to understand what risk is present before we need to put protective control into place. This process known as risk identification. Once we know what risk is present, we can now then determine the business impact and place risk into category. So this is the classification stage after we give the assessment within it. The process oftentimes categorized into low, medium, or high value. That means what is the likelihood of the risk occurring and what is the business impact. So again, the measurement is low, medium, or high, and some security expert might make a measurement into a numerical value might be 1 to 10, and 1 must be the lowest, and 10 is the highest business impact or the most likely threat will occur. After we know that the risk is exists and what is the level into business impact is, and then we can create some strategy on how can we deal at those risks. It is important to understand that always there have gonna be a risk. The overall goal of risk management is to simply reduce or to mitigate the risk and then control it. So, what are some good examples of risk? These risks have a great impact into business, from this table ranging from human to technical risks. Of course, there are some different categories aside from this table. Why risk management is important? It is important to understand why risk management is crucial part of the business. Among many things, risk management help avoid litigation. Litigation may rise from the breach exposure from a certain risk. For example, a retail company have been compromised, the breach exposed numerous customer information and any other identifiable information. As a result, a class action lawsuit were set into motion claiming that the major retail did not protect customers' information. Customers have now a fear to do future business with the retail company. This results on what we call negative public perceptions. Now we have a basic understanding on what is risk management is and why it is important. Element of risk management. We need to take a look with some of the elements involved in risk management. The first element that we deal with the process known as identification. This is where we identify risk, and once we understand what risk exists, and then we can assess the risk individually. What is a risk is given an impact into a profitability value, we can determine what should be done to reduce the exposure. Again, this is an assessment process. In mitigation, involve determining risk mass destruction to a business and then taking action to put into place to reduce the likelihood of such exposure. We must continue to monitor and adjust those controls, so it is important to understand that the control become ineffective. We must act to make sure to adjust them again to become effective. Once again, the most important part to remember with dealing with risk management, we need to reevaluate and revisit each one of those steps of identification, assessment, mitigation, monitoring, and adjusting. It is crucial to revisit each one of those steps because, as we know, new threats surface each day. How can we deal with risks once we know they are exist? When we encounter a risk, sometimes we can completely avoid the risk altogether. For example, a company decides to implement a new application server. During the risk analysis phase, it was determined that the risk was too high, so the project is completely scrapped. In this case, the risk avoided altogether. Risk reductions involve putting countermeasures into place so we can reduce the risk by putting these countermeasures into place. And the common example are putting antivirus in all servers and desktop. When the antivirus software is installed, we reduce the likelihood and also we reduce the virus outbreak. Like for example, we are reducing the level of risk. We might also think about security camera control, like for example, a company installed surveillance security camera control. This is also reduce the likelihood of a physical threat perspective. Risk acceptance really the process of saying, okay, I know that there is a certain risk that exists, but they don't both major threat on my organization or on my business operation. So I choose to accept the risk and not do anything about it. But it's just okay. That is the purpose of doing evaluations of what risk exists against your business. Some risks just accept and not doing about it. Risk transfer usually involve the transfer of liability. Think about an insurance policy. You just carry an auto insurance to protect you to an event of an auto accident. An organization may simply decide to carry extra liability to provide additional coverage for a certain type of exposure. What they are doing is transferring the risk and liability from a company into a third-party insurance company in this case. Risk assessment benefits. So let us take a look for some benefits of assessment. Risk assessment help analyze the business process that currently in place and also take a look what policy, what procedure needed in place in the business. What is the most critical to the business? In other words, assessment help us to clearly identify what asset is the most critical to the success of the overall business. Asset, it can be any number of things, like for example, in some business, says people is the most important assets. Some are intellectual property or trade secret are the most critical asset. Regardless, we must know and understand what is the most important assets of the business is, so we can make an intelligent decision on what control to make put into place to protect those assets. Assigning a value is also important. It does not really make sense or a business to spend million to a security control without first knowing the actual cost of the business asset needed to be protected at the first place. Once that you understand the value of assets, we can now then determine what make the best justification to purchase security control. It is does not make any sense to put a million for security control to protect 100,000 worth of business asset. Risk assessment also provide mechanism to become proactive. The assessment detect the threat earlier and allow you to adjust those control in order to reduce the exposure. The assessment provide a comprehensive plan as well and it talks about what is the impact of the business like. We talk about like low, medium, high level or numerical system with 1 to 10 and what is the likelihood of those risks. That is where the assessment impact of the risk. And finally, risk assessment will be going to be a report that includes tactical and strategical recommendations of what can you put into place or improve your processes, procedure, and other plans, and also vulnerabilities. Again, it is a comprehensive and provide tactical recommendations. For conclusion, risk management helps you to identify, manage, and ultimately control risks. It helps you to reduce the exposure once you understand what risks exist. Risk management helps your company be more proactive, and risk management should be reviewed continually so that the step we talk about. Risk management is ongoing effort and you must review those to make your program to be effective. Thanks for watching.